myself, and they're going to talk about the organizations they represent. And we'll dive right in.
Hey everybody, my name is Dan Schwartz. I'm a partner at Fragaman Immigration Law Firm. We're based in New York, but located around the world. We've got about 500 lawyers, 4,400 employees. I specialize in anything U.S. immigration related, and a piece of that obviously is EB5. So happy to be here today and looking forward to a good panel.
Hi, my name is Arthur Klein. I'm a Chief Legal Officer and Counsel for U.S. immigration lawyers. And I'm happy to see everyone today. How's your lunch?
Good.
It's good?
Yes.
Okay, so now you're ready for us to do the panel, right? Okay, there's a lot of issue regarding EB5, which I handled recently. And especially the RFBs, what the fund, that's what we're going to talk about, and then the currency swap. So it's going to be good to share with you.
Hi, I'm Christy Nell with SKT Law. We're a full-service law firm with offices in California, Vietnam, Philippines, and Hong Kong. I run the immigration practice group in the U.S. in our specific Irvine office. We have attorneys who specialize in different areas of law, including securities, corporate, international business, and we help with all sections with EB5 and general immigration.
Emeka doesn't need much of an introduction, but we'll let Emeka introduce themselves anyway.
Xin chào quý vị, tôi là Dương Cam Ly đến từ công ty EB5, là một công ty đại lý tư vấn di trú định cư Hoa Kỳ EB5 ở tại Việt Nam. Rất là vui được có mặt hôm nay. Trước tiên tôi xin cảm ơn anh Ali đã có mời tôi cũng như đội ngũ, và cảm ơn tờ báo magazine đã có mặt hiện diện ở tại thị trường Việt Nam. Và rất là cảm ơn mọi người đã chú ý lắng nghe panel của chúng tôi. Và tôi rất là tự hào được nói tiếng Việt trong các panel này. Xin cảm ơn ạ.
Hello everyone, my name is Cam Ly, CEO of EB5 Immigration Consultant. We are an agency in Vietnam that have the investor to invest in the EB5, and we are I'm so happy to be here, and I want to thanks to Ali, to EB5 Investor, for holding this conference, and thank you for coming. Really happy to see you guys here. Yes. And my name is Diệp Trúc from EB5 also. I'm investment director. So thank you.
And I'm Matt Galati. I'm the head of the EB5 department at Green & Spiegel Law Firm. We are a firm headquartered in the United States in Philadelphia, which is where I'm based. We do all elements of U.S. immigration law. And our parent, the mothership of the firm, is based in Toronto, Canada, doing all elements of Canadian immigration law. We also dabble in European programs and the Caribbean programs as well. Okay, so let's jump right in. Dan, you work at the largest immigration firm in the world. You see all kinds of developments, not just in EB5, but in U.S. immigration more generally. What can you tell us about what's going on, how this year is different than last year, and where we might be going?
Sure, thanks. So I think in terms of hot topics in EB5 Vietnam, it's important to look at the overall picture of U.S. immigration because it fits perfectly into context with what's going on in the United States. And it all sort of started on this Tuesday in November in 2016, right, with the election of the new president. And the administration has been pretty transparent in what its goals are, right? And those goals are to try to limit immigration, right? And the way that they've gone about it has been pretty fascinating. It started really in April of 2017 with an executive order that instructed the agencies under the Buy American, Hire American order, which some of you may be familiar with. And it's been, like I said, fascinating to watch the different agencies sort of engage that. And we're seeing in all sorts of types of visas, new restrictions, new limitations, new efforts to try to discourage employers and try to discourage investors from doing this and from moving to the United States. And it's been a wild ride, a wild year and a half in the United States. And just some examples, you know, in certain visa types, we have RFE rates that are reaching 70%, 7-0, where historically that rate is 15%, 1-5. And that's a difference in a year, right? From 15 to 70 in certain visa types. So it's pretty remarkable. As it relates to EB5, you're going to hear from the other panelists about a new policy memo that's effective next week. We're calling it the RFE or denial memo, so you'll learn about that. And we're also going to talk about some of the other interesting sort of changes, policy changes that we've seen related to redeployment of funds and related to other efforts that the administration is making or not making towards trying to regulate the EB5 program. So I don't want to paint too grim of a picture. There is some positives here, which is despite all of the RFEs and occasional denials unrelated to EB5, but in other visa types, we are seeing great success at the appellate level, both the AAO, which is the appeals board, and in federal court, right? So as wild as the agency is being, the courts are still reasonable, right? And that's one of the good things about the United States. There is a check to the president and to the efforts to sort of make immigration so much harder. So as challenging as it is, I think it's also an opportunity, and that opportunity is for everyone in the room, I think, which is to continue to file cases, file good cases, right? Solid source of funds, solid projects. You've heard from projects today that are all solid in nature, right? And our job then as lawyers and as agents is to do good work with respect to the source of funds and continue to file good cases and challenge the government. Because these are cases that should be approved, that meet the regulatory standard of preponderance of the evidence. And I think as much as a scary time it is, it's also an opportunity, right? An opportunity to challenge the administration and continue to file good cases. So with that, I mean, I think it's probably a good segue to talk a little bit about what are those specific challenges related to EB5.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to ask our two additional attorney panelists about some specific EB5 issues, and then I'd like Imika to give us the perspective of these issues in the mind of the Vietnamese investor who needs to overcome these issues. So Archer, let's start with you. Now, back in the day maybe even years ago, it used to be that an investor shows the source of funds, the investor takes those funds, and then somehow moves them out of Vietnam into the United States. USCIS didn't really care how you moved it out of Vietnam, just that you did it. Nowadays, things are a little more challenging. So Archer, why don't you tell us a bit more about the departure from what we've come to expect and the specific currency swap challenge that we're facing and how you have been able to overcome it in your practice.
Yeah, these based on my experience, like we discussed in the U.S. regarding the RFE and currency swap. I have done multiple direct investment EB5. So EB5 have direct investment and the regional center. As you know, we require 1 million. So we get many approval before when I submit, and USCIS don't even ask me about the currency swap. So they take it as, they don't look into the tax or the foreign exchange in that country, whatever country it is. But now recently, they have changed the regulation, the way of looking at the way that the currency swap. So the latest RFE that I received, which took a lot of manpower to reply, is that they ask so much stuff from the currency swap. So basically, they ask for the license, they ask for the tax return of the one that do the exchange, how much money they make out of the transaction. I mean, I never seen that before. So with that, it required more work, but fortunately, I replied to that deadline, and it took a lot of hours. So that's what I see recently, the changes in the way they implement the policy without giving us notice. That's what they're going to do. So, but it is what it is. If it's like that, then we deal with it.
Kenley, you're obviously very skilled at helping investors through the EB5 process. Getting money out of Vietnam is certainly a challenge, especially with these new companies. I'm not asking you to give away any company secrets, but if you could just tell us how you generally approach this issue with investors to make them feel comfortable with making the investment in dollars, which is always a challenge.
Thank you. Cảm ơn. Về tình hình xử lý hồ sơ thì theo khách quan mà tôi nhìn từ hướng là một agency, đó là tôi thấy bên phía Sở Di trú càng ngày càng đặt thêm nhiều câu hỏi hơn, đưa ra yêu cầu nhiều hồ sơ hơn, và chúng tôi rất là may mắn chúng tôi có được một cái khoảng thời gian khá là lâu thực hiện các hồ sơ EB5 trên thị trường đã gần 10 năm rồi, và chúng tôi cũng may mắn là có những trung tâm vùng rất là tốt và những dự án cũng đã hoàn thành những cái loại hồ sơ đặc biệt đã được chấp thuận đầy đủ sẵn sàng. Và đặc biệt nữa là các luật sư mà giúp chúng tôi họ cũng rất là chuyên nghiệp và họ hướng dẫn chúng tôi rất là kỹ lưỡng ngay từ những phút đầu nộp bộ hồ sơ là phải rất là hoàn thiện, và cho dù hoàn thiện đến như thế nào thì Sở Di trú cũng vẫn hỏi thêm. Tuy nhiên cũng đã dễ hơn rất là nhiều khi mà hỏi lên thêm những loại giấy tờ đơn giản thôi. Thì đối với chúng tôi đó cũng là một cái thử thách, và chúng tôi luôn bám sát những cái thông tin để mà luôn cung cấp các loại hồ sơ đúng cho khách hàng.
As an agency that we've helped a lot of investors in Vietnam to do the EB5, especially in growing Saigon and wire the money to the US. And one of our advantages is that we have a lot of experience in this industry, and we are so lucky to have really good, to have the best lawyers, attorney, and regional centers, and really good projects to have been have brought the success to the clients, to the investors. That nowadays you guys know that there are many challenges in the industry that USCIS ask more and more questions and look at more detail about the documents, but we know the way to have the clients to submit more evidence to the file, to the petition, and this time everything is going good, and we also have a lot of proof of the I-526 or I-829 is really fast.
Christy, in your practice, have you ever worked with an agent or an investor and you thought, well, maybe we need to add a little more to a case, maybe we need some more documents, and then you were given a reply, let's just wait for the RFE. Has that ever happened to you?
I see where you're going with this, and of course.
And historically, that's been an okay strategy. You can wait for the request for evidence, respond to the request for evidence. It takes a little longer, but you still get an approval. What's changed?
So on July 13, 2018, USCIS issued a policy memo that pretty much threw a kind of a wrench in the game. The policy memo allows USCIS to deny petitions, applications, requests for immigration benefits without first issuing a request for evidence or notice intent to deny if the case wasn't filed with all the initial required evidence. So this policy memo rescinds a 2013 policy memo that required USCIS adjudicators to issue an RFD unless there's like no possibility that the case could be, like any issues with it could be resolved with additional evidence. And it really has, see how it affects things, you know, there's no way we'll know. I was actually on a panel with a former USCIS adjudicator, former consular officer dealing with EB5, and he was asked how this policy memo, which by the way actually takes effect September 11th, so coming up, how it will change EB5, and he said to him it won't. So some people are optimistic, others are not quite as much, because as practitioners, you don't want to take chances. You don't want to miss anything, because it's kind of a USCIS warning, or I guess administration warning, that get it right the first time, because the consequences are very steep. You know, you have immigration filing fees to pay, losing your spot in the visa backlog, USCIS processing time. And I think for the EB5 community, in a way could help because it allows agents, attorneys to really push their clients to get all the documents, in, like to fully document your source of funds, transfer funds, whatever it is that you're missing, and again, get it right the first time. As well as I think it could push certain reluctant investors to maybe actually move forward with EB5 and not contact you like a week before the congressional deadline, be like, I want to file my I-526 now. I think we've all dealt with that, but the USCIS memo is not intended to, as they say, penalize frivolous mistakes. It's more to discourage frivolous filings and just placeholder skeleton petitions, which I know nobody here would do. But we don't know how it's going to be in effect. And
If I could just throw something in there. I mean, it's been interesting since the issuance of the memo to hear, like you said on the panel, the USCIS officer sort of walking away from it a little bit, right? Yeah, we don't think it'll affect EB5. And then another comment, there was some stakeholder call or a meeting where they used that reference, we're going after skeletal filings. You guys have filed good cases, don't worry about it. The example in the policy memo is, as you said, it's about frivolous. It's just a question of